Just how far off the mark, Buffett's own mark, is Berkshire Hathaway likely to be?
Let's talk about what we're measuring, first of all, and that is book value of Berkshire Hathaway. So that's a measure of the company's basically worth versus what its stock price has been doing. And so if you look at what the S&P 500 has done over the past 5 years, it's returned about 128%. That does include dividends. At the same time, the book value of Berkshire Hathaway, according to estimates, is north of 80%, but that's still a far cry from 128%. And Buffett himself pointed out earlier this year that he wasn't sure he was going to make it. If you looked at the book value through the end of September, that's where we have the actual number. It was 126,766, which was an 80% gain on the nose, and now analysts are looking for a gain of somewhere in the low to mid 80s.
All right, so Noah, just out of curiosity, what does the first potential miss in 44 years for Buffett mean to you?
Well, you can look at this in a couple of different ways. I think the two most important things to take away from this are, one, the S&P 500 has climbed a whole heck of a lot in the last 5 years. The other thing is that Berkshire's getting really, really big.
Meaning, first of all, that he's just suffering from a difficult comparison.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a difficult comparison for a lot of people who use it as their benchmark. And then the second point, as I was saying, is just the size of Berkshire. It's a $290 billion company now, which means if you want to have the sort of percentage increases that Berkshire has enjoyed throughout its history, something like 20% compounded annual book value gains per year, you just need to create a whole lot more value every year. It's just a big number in absolute terms.
But does it give him, Julie, I'm interested in your take too, I mean, does it give him less bragging rights?
I mean, you know, he's Warren Buffett. I don't think it takes that much away from his legacy. And I think also if you look at Berkshire Hathaway and the folks who are investing in the company, at least people we talk to, are decades-long investors in many cases. If he's trying to attract sort of new money to the stock or newer money to the stock, then yes, it becomes more of an issue. But in terms of affecting Warren Buffett's legacy, if you're looking on a 5-year time horizon, even though that's his measure that he's grading himself against, it doesn't seem to really...
No, basically no. People like to say it. Jules is like, no way, you're really sleepy this morning, dude. But, I mean, as far as what kinds of investments he's been getting into, is there any kind of critique we can pull away from an investor standpoint?
Well, certainly one of the big ones that people talk about is IBM. He bought in, he spent about $11 billion in 2011. It's lagged the S&P 500 since then. A lot of people have been scratching their heads about that. Though, to your point, a lot of analysts and investors who I spoke with basically said the investor base in Berkshire Hathaway is going to be incredibly forgiving. Buffett's made them so much money over the years, and at the end of the day, Buffett might be his own harshest critic here.
Well, putting that standard out. Any other facts and figures we should keep in mind, Jules?
I mean, if you look at this net worth figure, I was also looking at how the stock did, how Berkshire Hathaway stock did in 2013, and it was actually up 33%, not including dividends. So if you look at it purely on that level, it actually outpaced the S&P 500 by a little bit last year, again, despite that investment in IBM, which happened to be the only Dow stock that fell last year. So that certainly was not the best.
If you're going to pick 1 out of 30 and you pick that one, that's not exactly...
not the best one to pick.